Welcome! You're listening to Chapter by Chapter Classics, the short-form classic literature podcast where each episode walks you through a few chapters of a great book. In this season, we're exploring Dracula by Bram Stoker, using the public domain Project Gutenberg edition so you can easily read along. Today's episode is a spoiler-light overview of the story, the characters, the Gothic atmosphere, and the themes of fear, blood, faith, science, and modern technology that will unpack chapter by chapter.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because usually when you pick up a famous piece of 19th century literature, you walk in with like a very specific set of expectations, right?
Right, yeah, you expect a certain traditional structure.
Exactly. You anticipate this comforting safety net, like an omniscient narrator just guiding you along. You expect a curated tour through a chronological story, you know?
Yeah, led by that voice of absolute authority, telling you exactly who the heroes are, who the villains are, and, well, what to think about them.
Right.
Because that structure is designed to make the reader feel secure. You're just a passive observer watching events unfold from a safe, objective distance.
You know the author's in total control of the universe they built.
Exactly. But then you open Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, Dracula, and that safety net just vanishes instantly.
It's totally gone. There is no narrator. There's no objective authority.
Nothing.
Instead, what you get feels like someone just dumped a chaotic, like unredacted box of evidence right into your lap.
It really does.
So, welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to provide you with a big picture orientation to the text of Dracula.
We're looking under the hood of Stoker's original work, really.
Yeah, to examine the mechanics, the structural genius, and the profound thematic architecture of the story. And we're doing this to give you, the listener, whether you're a high school student, in college, or just an adult looking for reread the context you need before you dive in.
Right, and we'll keep it spoiler light. We definitely aren't going to spoil how the final pursuit resolves.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
So to understand the mechanism of this novel, we kind of have to look closely at its form first.
Yeah, because Stoker didn't just write a standard story. He wrote an epistolary novel.
Which means, for anyone who might not know,
it means the narrative is constructed entirely out of subjective, fragmented documents. So as you read, you are forced to become like a forensic investigator.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right, you're piecing together shorthand diary entries, letters, local newspaper clippings.
And maritime ship logs, telegrams.
Yes, and even cutting-edge 1897 audio recordings on phonograph wax cylinders.
It's wild. To use a modern analogy, you aren't really reading a traditional story at all. You are reviewing a decentralized dossier of open-source intelligence.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It's like a true crime file compiled by a group of traumatized survivors, you know, just trying to prove to themselves that an ontological impossibility actually occurred.
And because you're likely already familiar with the pop culture shadow of Dracula.
Right, the Halloween cape, the accent, the movie.
Exactly. Because of all that, it is really startling to realize that the source material is fundamentally a paranoid thriller about the breakdown of reality.
It totally is. And the brilliance of that structure is how it manipulates your sense of truth.
Yes. Every single document in the book is fundamentally unreliable.
Right, because a diary entry only tells you what that specific character perceived in that moment.
Clouded by their own biases or terror, or in some cases, madness, Stoker forces you to experience the exact same epistemological crisis that the characters are going through.
Which brings us to the inciting incident, I think, and the geography of that crisis. We start with Jonathan Harker's journey to Transylvania.
Yeah, setting the stage.
And what really strikes me about the setup is just the banality of his mission. Jonathan is a newly qualified solicitor. He isn't some warrior or adventurer.
No, not at all. He's just a lawyer traveling east on behalf of his firm.
Right, to help Count Dracula finalize a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
I mean, he is literally bringing British property law to the Carpathian Mountains.
What's fascinating here is how Stoker uses that completely mundane legal framing to set up the central clash of the novel.
How so?
Well, Jonathan represents the apex of the rational, bureaucratic, modern British Empire. He travels with train timetables and polyglot dictionaries.
He expects the world to operate on predictable mechanical rules.
Exactly. But as he travels further east, while the trains stop running on time, the logical framework of his reality begins to warp.
Yeah, he finds himself surrounded by superstitious peasants offering him crucifixes and garlic.
Which he totally dismisses at first.
Right. But they're terrified of something his legal mind cannot even process. And the settings themselves do so much of the heavy lifting here.
Oh, absolutely. The Gothic horror elements really shine through the locations.
Like Castle Dracula. It's perched on a sheer precipice, choked with ancient dust and locked doors. It operates as this monument to aristocratic decay and unchecked feudal power.
It's the literal embodiment of the supernatural past.
But then you look at the real estate Dracula is purchasing in London, the Carfax estate.
Right, a massive, gloomy property situated right near a modern lunatic asylum.
And it has an ancient ruined chapel attached to it. It's a literal foothold.
Yeah, Dracula isn't launching a military invasion. He's using British property law to purchase a nest within the beating heart of the modern Western world.
It's so insidious.
It really is, and this taps directly into a profound Victorian anxiety, the fear of reverse colonization.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because Britain was the undisputed imperial power, right? Accustomed to traveling to foreign lands, extracting resources, imposing their culture.
And Stoker inverts that entirely.
Exactly. Here is an ancient foreign aristocrat traveling to London to extract its most precious resource, the blood of its citizens, and impose his own parasitic dominance.
That's chilling. And the moment Jonathan realizes this, inside the castle is just masterful. Because it isn't just scary, it's a complete shattering of physics.
That's a mirror scene.
Yes. He is standing in his room, looking in his small shaving mirror. He hears the Count speak right behind him, but the mirror reflects an empty room.
The Count casts no reflection.
Right. And for a man who relies entirely on empirical evidence, seeing a physical impossibility just breaks his mind.
And it only gets worse from there.
Yeah, he soon witnesses the Count crawling face down the vertical exterior wall of the castle like a lizard.
The horror isn't just that he is a prisoner.
No, it's that the natural laws governing the universe do not apply to his captor.
Which is terrifying, and then the narrative just sharply pivots.
Right, while Harker is isolated and facing this ancient terror, Stoker transports us back to the safety of England to introduce the rest of the cast.
We meet this group of people who are entirely oblivious to the fact that an apex predator is sailing toward their shores.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because when we look at the London and Whitby crew, they are presented as the absolute pinnacle of 19th century technological and scientific hubris.
They really are.
You have Mina Murray, Jonathan's practical and fiercely intelligent fiancée, who is mastering the new technologies of shorthand and typewriting.
Very modern for the time.
Yeah. And you have her wealthy, aristocratic friend, Lucy Westenra, and then Lucy's three suitors.
Right. Quite the trio.
Dr. John Seward, who runs a psychiatric hospital, Arthur Holmwood, a prominent nobleman, and Quincey Morris, an archetype of American frontier energy and resourcefulness.
It is a deliberate cross-section of modern capability. You have medical science, vast wealth, practical administration, and brute action.
They represent the defensive wall of modernity.
Yet they are fundamentally defenseless.
Completely. I mean, they have Kodak cameras, they have portable typewriters.
Dr. Seward is recording his medical observations onto a phonograph.
Right. They are armed to the teeth with the latest technology. But when Dracula arrives, they are completely blindsided.
The arrival scene is so iconic.
The ghost ship Demeter crashes into the coastal town of Whitby during this unnatural storm. The crew is missing. The captain is dead at the wheel.
And how does Stoker deliver this massive plot point?
Through newspaper clippings.
Yes, the characters read about it in the morning paper alongside advertisements and society gossip.
They totally fail to recognize the existential threat right in front of them.
Which raises an important question about their worldview. Their reliance on science and rationality has given them a severe myopia.
Yeah, they cannot fathom a medieval monster, so they misinterpret every single clue.
They treat Lucy's subsequent sleepwalking and mysterious anemia as a medical puzzle.
Right, something to be solved with bed rest and tonics. Modernity has given them a blind spot the size of a vampire.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, I struggle to understand the mentor figure they bring in to fix this blind spot, though.
You mean Van Helsing?
Yeah. When Lucy starts fading, Dr. Seward calls in his old mentor, Professor Abraham Van Helsing of Amsterdam.
He is supposed to be the ultimate bridge.
Right, a philosopher and metaphysician who understands both the microscope and ancient lore. But his methods seem completely counterproductive.
Oh, so?
Well, he figures out what is attacking Lucy, yet he keeps everyone in the dark. He refuses to tell Seward or Arthur the truth about vampires, relying instead on cryptic warnings and garlic flowers.
True.
He's a man of science, but he acts like a secretive mystic withholding vital data. It almost feels like a plot hole designed just to manufacture suspense while Lucy dies.
It definitely appears maddening to the modern reader, I agree. But within the logic of the novel, Van Helsing's secrecy is actually a necessary psychological tactic.
Wait, really? How?
Well, he recognizes that Seward and Arthur are suffering from epistemic closure.
Oh, I see.
If he simply walks into a modern London hospital and declares, your fiancé is being drained by a 400-year-old immortal warlord, what would happen?
They would probably lock him in Seward's asylum.
Exactly. Van Helsing has to let their scientific interventions fail step by step so that their rigid worldview shatters organically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, only when they have exhausted every rational explanation will they be mentally malleable enough to accept the irrational truth.
That makes a lot of sense. And the ultimate failure of that science centers around the novel's most vital currency, which is blood.
Yes, blood is everything in this story.
When Lucy is on the brink of death from Dracula's nocturnal visits, Van Helsing orchestrates a series of blood transfusions.
Arthur, Seward, Van Helsing, and Quincey all donate their blood.
Which in 1897 was an incredibly dangerous experimental procedure.
It was, and blood carries immense, multifaceted, thematic weight in this text. It is the literal life force.
As obsessed over by Renfield, right?
Yes, the zoophagous patient in Seward's asylum who eats insects and birds to absorb their vitality.
So creepy.
Renfield acts as a deeply disturbing psychological proxy for Dracula, perverting the natural food chain right inside the modern hospital. But blood also represents purity, lineage, and intimacy.
Yeah, the transfusions are an incredibly intimate act. These 4 strong, capable men are literally opening their veins, pumping their own life force into Lucy to counteract the corruption draining her.
But you realize how utterly outmatched they are.
Totally. Dracula isn't just taking her life. He is replacing her purity with his own ancient corruption.
He is performing an anti-communion.
Oh, that's dark. And the modern medicine fails. The transfusions cannot cure a somatic curse. Lucy dies, but her body does not rest.
She becomes undead. She starts preying on children in the local graveyard.
And this is the tipping point Van Helsing was waiting for, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The men are forced to completely abandon their scientific paradigm. To save Lucy's eternal soul, they must resort to ancient, gruesome violence.
They have to enter her tomb, drive a stake through her heart, and sever her head.
It is a brutal desecration of a body, but Stoker frames it as an act of supreme mercy.
A spiritual restoration.
Right.
So what does this all mean for the rest of the novel? How do they pivot from just reacting to this horror to actively fighting it?
Well, they realize Dracula has 50 boxes of Transylvanian earth hidden around London, and he needs them to survive.
And this is where the structural format of the novel, the diaries and letters we talked about earlier, stops being just a storytelling device.
Right. It becomes the actual weapon used to defeat the monster.
That is such a cool shift.
That is the crucial turning point. Dracula's greatest strength is also his fatal flaw. He is an autocrat.
He is deeply isolated, selfish, and solipsistic.
He acts entirely alone, trusting no one, hoarding power and life solely for himself. He doesn't network.
But the heroes realize their only chance is to form a network.
They create a committee.
They do. And the undeniable architect of that network is Mina, which brings in the whole theme of gender roles.
Yes. The men initially try to protect her, attempting to exclude her from the hunt out of a misguided sense of Victorian chivalry.
But Mina is the one who gathers Jonathan's traumatized journal, Seward's clinical phonograph cylinders, and the newspaper clippings.
She painstakingly types them out, carbon copies them, and arranges them chronologically.
She creates the very dossier you are reading as the reader.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Mina's active organization is the ultimate triumph of collective intelligence over selfish individualism.
That theme of teamwork is so strong.
It is. Van Helsing famously praises her for having a man's brain and a woman's heart.
Which, yikes by today's standards.
Right. Well, that specific phrasing reflects the restrictive gender politics of the 1890s, categorizing rational logic as male and empathetic care as female. It highlights her role as the synthesizer of all their strengths.
She open sources their trauma. By pooling their data, their wealth, and their skills, they map Dracula's movements.
The contrast is thrilling. You have an ancient monster who thrives in shadows and isolation,
being hunted by a heavily financed, fully transparent task force running on steam trains, telegrams, and Winchester rifles.
The pursuit is essentially a logistics war.
But Dracula attempts to disrupt that network, doesn't he?
He does. Realizing he is being hunted and his safe houses are being sterilized, he retaliates directly against their architect.
He attacks Mina. He forces her to drink his blood in a traumatic event, often called the vampire's baptism of blood.
It is a horrific violation. He intends to infect her, to draw her into his isolated, corrupt orbit, just as he did with Lucy.
But here is where the hero's adaptability really shines. They turn his own infection against him.
Yes, the bite forges a telepathic link between Mina and Dracula.
And under Van Helsing's hypnosis, Mina can tap into Dracula's sensory network.
She can hear the water lapping against the hull of the ship as he flees back to Transylvania.
They reverse hack his supernatural connection to track him, which is amazing.
It transforms the final act into a frantic transcontinental race against time.
Right. The modern world utilizing the Orient Express and steamboats racing to intercept the ancient monster,
who is confined to a wooden box on a slow river barge before he reaches the impregnable safety of his castle.
We won't detail the final clash in the snow because we want you to experience that for yourself, but the thematic resolution is clear. The real horror of Dracula isn't a bat tapping at your window. It is the existential terror that your modern infrastructure, your scientific degrees, and your rational laws are entirely inadequate to protect you from the irrational.
The heroes survive only because they're willing to adapt, to shatter their own worldview, and to unconditionally share the burden of the truth with one another.
They recognize that no single individual possesses the complete picture. The truth only emerges in the aggregate.
Exactly.
So as you prepare to open the dossier of Dracula, my advice to you is to pay strict attention to the dates and the shifting perspectives.
Notice how a terrifying, inexplicable event in Jonathan's diary is later contextualized by a dry newspaper clipping.
Or one of Seward's clinical audio logs, yeah. Watch the mechanics of how the evidence builds because you are actively participating in the exact same process of discovery as the characters.
And this raises an important question to consider long after you close the book.
Let's hear it.
In 1897, when Mina compiled that dossier, the characters implicitly trusted the raw media. A phonograph recording was an indisputable record of a voice. A photograph was an objective capture of reality.
Right, seeing and hearing was believing.
And that shared trust in the evidence allowed them to unite and defeat the monster. Today, we live in an era where the very nature of evidence is collapsing.
Oh, that's so true. We are saturated with deepfakes, AI-generated audio, algorithmically manipulated news.
Exactly. So if a modern-day Mina Harker compiled a dossier proving that a monster was living among us, the tragedy wouldn't be that our science couldn't explain it.
What would it be?
The tragedy might be that in our deeply fractured digital reality, we wouldn't even be able to agree the evidence was real until the monster was already at the door.
Wow. It makes you wonder what happens to you when the very tools of truth become the things you fear the most. Enjoy the investigation, everyone.
That's our big picture introduction to Dracula, Jonathan Harker's journey, Count Dracula's threat, Mina and Lucy's importance, Van Helsing's role, and the strange mix of old superstition and modern technology that drives the novel. In the next episode, we'll begin with chapters 1 through 4, where Jonathan Harker travels through Transylvania, arrives at Castle Dracula, and slowly realizes that he may not be a guest at all. He may be a prisoner. If you'd like to read along, you'll find a link to the same Project Gutenberg edition we're using in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Chapter by Chapter Classics. If this episode helped you follow the story, follow the show in your podcast app so you don't miss the next chapter. And if you're enjoying this series, please take a moment to rate the podcast or leave a short review. It really helps other readers and students find the show.